Kate Morgan lay motionless beneath twisted metal and concrete, the taste of dust and blood heavy on her tongue. 6 hours earlier, she had been checking the colony's power grid when the Vectar attack began. Now, all she could see was darkness and a thin sliver of alien sky through a crack in the rubble. Pain radiated from her left leg. Something had pierced through her calf during the collapse, but she couldn't move enough to examine it. The weight pressing on her chest made each breath a struggle. "Command post is secure," a harsh clicking voice said somewhere above her. The Vectar language sounded like breaking glass to human ears, but Kate's military translator implant converted it automatically. "Any survivors in this sector?" another voice asked. "Negative. These humans are too fragile to survive such structural collapse. Their bones break under minimal pressure." A scraping sound followed as the aliens moved across the debris. Kate held her breath, fighting the urge to cough as dust settled in her lungs. "Proceed to the next quadrant. The administrator wants the colony secured before their reinforcements arrive." The voices faded. Kate exhaled slowly, wincing as pain shot through her ribs. They were probably broken. She had to assess her situation. Lieutenant Catherine Morgan, military engineer assigned to New Horizon Colony Mars Battalion, 5 years of service. Current status, buried alive and presumed dead by alien invaders. The attack had come without warning. New Horizon's early detection systems had failed completely or been sabotaged. Kate remembered the sirens, the panicked colonists running for shelter, and then the terrible sound of the community center collapsing around her. Using her right hand, Kate carefully explored her surroundings. The collapse had created a small pocket around her, maybe 3 feet high at its tallest point. Her emergency kit was still attached to her belt, but she couldn't reach her comm unit. It was likely crushed anyway. Through the small gap in the rubble, she watched Vectar ships landing in the colony's central plaza. The aliens moved with precision, setting up equipment and herding captured colonists into groups. Their armored exoskeletons gleamed in the afternoon sun, jointed limbs moving with insect-like efficiency. Kate tried to shift her position and bit back a scream as white-hot pain tore through her leg. The wound was bad, but the debris pinning her had also created pressure that was likely preventing her from bleeding out. Small mercies. She activated her wrist computer, relieved to find it still functioning. The screen illuminated her small prison with soft blue light. No signal, but the local functions still worked. According to the oxygen analyzer, she had enough air circulating through the rubble to survive for now. Hours passed. Kate drifted in and out of consciousness, waking fully when night fell and temperatures dropped dramatically. Through her viewing crack, she saw Vectar patrols using scanning devices to sweep the ruins. They weren't looking for survivors. They were mapping the colony's infrastructure. By the second day, thirst became Kate's enemy. She managed to reach the emergency water pack in her kit, rationing small sips. The wound in her leg had stopped, bleeding but felt hot, infection setting in. She used the antibacterial wipes from her kit to clean it as best she could. On the third day, she heard human voices, colonists being forced to clear debris from the main pathways. Kate wanted to call out but knew better. The Vectar guards would kill her immediately and anyone who tried to help. "This sector is structurally unsound," she heard a Vectar commander say. "Seal it off and concentrate on the administration, buildings." A metallic barrier slammed into place nearby, and Kate realized with horror that the aliens had just cut off her one potential route of rescue. They had literally written off this section of the colony, and her along with it. Kate closed her eyes and focused on her breathing. She was not going to die here. The Vectar had made a critical error in their assessment of human resilience. They had left her for dead. She would make them regret that mistake. 5 days passed in Kate's rubble prison. Each hour crawled by as she rationed her dwindling water supply, taking only the smallest sips when her throat became unbearably dry. The pain in her leg had transformed, from sharp agony to a constant throbbing heat that worried her more than the pain itself. On the morning of the 6th day, Kate noticed a change in the pattern of light coming through her viewing crack. The debris above her had shifted slightly. She carefully pushed against a metal beam near her right shoulder. It moved a few inches before stopping against something solid. Kate took a deep breath and pushed harder. The beam groaned, but continued moving until a shaft of daylight broke through. Fresh air rushed into her cramped space, bringing with it the smell of smoke and unfamiliar chemicals. Through the new opening, Kate could see more of the colony. The once pristine buildings of New Horizon were now skeletal structures. Vectar, soldiers patrolled the streets while humans in tattered clothes worked under guard, clearing debris and moving equipment. Kate watched a Vectar patrol pass directly above her hiding place. Their exoskeleton suits hissed with each movement, regulating their internal atmosphere. One soldier paused, its breathing apparatus making a strange whistling sound. The creature removed its faceplate, revealing glistening green skin beneath. Atmospheric. Regulator malfunction again? Another soldier clicked. Yes. The human world is too humid for our systems, the first soldier replied, adjusting something on its suit. Engineering promised an upgrade, but we're still using standard issue. Kate memorized every detail of the exposed alien, the vulnerable, neck gills, the four eyes that blinked independently, the apparent discomfort in Earth's atmosphere. This was valuable intelligence, if she could survive to use it. When night fell, Kate decided it was time to move. She had spent days studying the patrol patterns and knew the guards changed shifts at midnight, creating a brief window with less surveillance. She carefully widened the opening, ignoring the pain as broken concrete scraped against her skin. Her left leg was nearly useless, but determination pushed her forward. Inch by painful inch, she pulled herself from the rubble. Standing for the first time in almost a week, Kate nearly collapsed as blood rushed to her injured leg. She leaned against a broken wall, breathing heavily. Her once blue uniform was now rust-colored with dried blood and dirt. Kate remembered the maintenance tunnels that ran beneath the colony. As the engineering officer, she had memorized their layout. If the Vectar hadn't discovered them, they might provide a way out. She limped to what had been the colony's power station, now a twisted heap of metal. Behind it, partially hidden by debris, was a maintenance hatch. Kate pulled at the handle, muscles screaming from days of inactivity. The hatch creaked open. The tunnel below was dark but intact. Kate lowered herself carefully, using her arms to compensate for her injured leg. The cool darkness enveloped her as she closed the hatch above. For 3 hours, Kate crawled through the tunnels, following the emergency lighting strips that still glowed faintly. Her military implant occasionally picked up fragments of Vectar communications from above, enough to learn that most colonists had been taken to labor camps rather than killed outright. Near dawn, Kate reached a junction that led outside the colony perimeter. As she pushed open the exit hatch, the first rays of sunrise touched her face. Before her stretched the wilderness of New Horizon, rocky terrain dotted with the genetically modified vegetation that was slowly making the planet habitable. Kate pulled herself out of the tunnel, collapsing on the ground. She was free of the rubble at last, but her fight was just beginning. The Vectar had made a critical error in their assessment of humans. As she looked back at the occupied colony, Kate made a silent promise to everyone still trapped inside. The aliens would soon learn just how resilient one supposedly fragile human could be. Kate spent 3 days hiding in a small cave 2 miles from the colony perimeter. She treated her infected leg with medicinal plants she recognized from survival training, grinding the leaves into a paste and applying it to the wound. The fever that had been building broke on the second night, leaving her weak but clear-headed. On the 4th day, Kate spotted movement in the valley below her position. She tensed, ready to retreat deeper into the cave, but relaxed when she recognized human forms moving cautiously through the underbrush. 3 people, traveling at night to avoid detection. Kate followed them silently, her military training allowing her to move without making sound despite her injured leg. When they stopped to rest near a small stream, she approached carefully. "I'm Lieutenant Kate Morgan, Colony Engineering Officer," she said softly, stepping into their view with her hands raised. "I survived the attack." The 3 refugees stared at her in shock. A man with a graying beard recovered first. "Dr. Alan Webb, colony physician," he said. "This is Zoe Franklin, communications, and Ben Carter from security." "Zoe, A woman with close-cropped hair and dark skin looked at Kate with wide eyes. "We thought everyone in the Central District was killed in the collapse." "The Vectar thought so too," Kate replied. "That's why I'm still alive." They shared what they knew. Alan had been working in the outer medical facility when the attack came and had managed to escape with medical supplies. Zoe and Ben had been on perimeter duty and witnessed the colony's defenses fail completely. It was like they knew exactly where to hit us, Ben said, his face grim beneath a week's growth of beard. "Our weapon systems went offline seconds before they arrived." "What about communication with Earth?" Kate asked. Zoe shook her head. "All external comms are down. But before they cut us off, I received fragments of distress calls from other colonies. New Horizon wasn't the only target. This was coordinated across multiple human settlements." Kate absorbed this information quietly. They were on their own. For the next 2 weeks, Kate established a routine of careful observation. Each day she would make her way closer to the colony perimeter, documenting Vectar movements, technology, and behaviors. Her military implant could record short video segments, which she studied each night in the growing resistance camp. More survivors found their way to them, a family of farmers, 2 maintenance workers, and a pilot who had been stranded outside the colony during the attack. Each brought valuable skills and information. Kate learned that the Vectar were cataloging all human technology. They seemed particularly interested in Earth's terraforming methods. Vectar scientists supervised human workers as they continued the terraforming process, taking extensive notes on the procedures. "They're learning from us," Kate told the others during an evening meeting. "They want our knowledge more than they want our planet." Kate also discovered something troubling. The Vectar had set up signal jammers around the colony, but they routinely opened narrow communication windows to send data back to their fleet. During these windows, Kate's implant picked up communications indicating that Earth itself had gone silent. "I don't think reinforcements are coming," she told the group one night. "We may be completely on our own." The news should have devastated them, but instead Kate saw determination harden in the faces around her. Humans had survived on this harsh planet before the Vectar arrived. They would continue to survive. "We need to understand their weaknesses," Kate said, showing them the footage of the Vectar soldier removing its breathing apparatus. "Every species has vulnerabilities, we just need to find theirs." That night, Kate stood at the edge of their hidden camp, looking toward the colony's distant lights. The Vectar thought they had crushed human resistance when they brought down those buildings. They had no idea that by leaving one human for dead under the rubble, they had created the very leader who would become their greatest threat. Kate led the growing band of survivors to an abandoned mining facility 5 miles north of the colony. The facility had been deemed unprofitable years ago, but its extensive tunnel system now provided the perfect hiding place for the resistance. "These tunnels extend for nearly 20 miles, Kate explained as they explored the main shaft. "The Vectar won't find us here unless someone leads them to us." The group settled in quickly, establishing living quarters in the deeper tunnels and observation posts near the surface exits. Within days, their numbers grew to 37 as more colonists escaped the labor camps or emerged from hiding. Kate organized them according to their skills. Zoe Franklin established a communication center using salvaged equipment, attempting to bypass the Vectar jammers. Dr. Webb set up a medical station in a side chamber. Ben Carter trained those willing to fight in combat techniques using makeshift weapons. "We need real weapons," Ben told Kate after a training session. "Sharpened pipes won't do much against Vectar armor," Kate agreed. "We'll start with small operations. Gather intelligence, steal supplies, and avoid direct confrontation until we're stronger." Their first mission targeted a small Vectar supply depot on the colony's edge. Kate led a team of 4, including Ben, moving under cover of darkness. They neutralized 2 guards using knowledge of the weak points in Vectar breathing apparatus, then took their weapons and as many supplies as they could carry. The mission's success boosted morale and provided them with valuable Vectar technology to study. Kate spent hours examining the alien weapons, figuring out how they worked and how humans could use them. Over the next month, The Resistance conducted a dozen similar operations. They targeted small outposts, avoided killing when possible, and focused on gathering supplies and freeing captive colonists. Each freed prisoner brought new skills and information to their underground base. The Vectar noticed the pattern of thefts and increased security, but they couldn't identify who was leading the Resistance. Kate made sure to leave no evidence behind, and freed prisoners spread conflicting stories about their rescuers. One night, Zoe burst into Kate's quarters, excitement clear on her face. "I intercepted a Vectar transmission," she said. "They're bringing in specialized hunters to track us down. They're calling the Resistance leader the Ghost because no one has seen you." Kate smiled grimly. "Good. Let them waste resources chasing a ghost." The Resistance continued to grow stronger. A group of engineers joined after escaping a labor camp, bringing valuable technical knowledge. Under Kate's direction, they began modifying Vectar weapons for human use and building simple but effective traps. Word of their success spread through the underground network of human laborers in the colony. Messages reached Kate through a system of drops and runners, offering information about Vectar movements and vulnerabilities. "The aliens are worried," Ben reported after returning from a reconnaissance mission. "I overheard officers discussing reinforcements. They didn't expect organized resistance." Kate gathered her leadership team in the central chamber of their underground base. Maps of the colony covered the walls, marked with Vectar positions and patrol routes. "We've been playing defense," she told them. "It's time to show the Vectar what humans are capable of when cornered." She outlined her plan to free the largest labor camp, where over 100 colonists were being held. It would be their most ambitious operation yet, requiring precise timing and coordination. "This will announce our presence to the Vectar in a way we can't take back," Kate warned. "Once we do this, they'll commit everything to finding us." The others looked at each other, then back to Kate. There was no hesitation in their eyes. "We're ready," Dr. Webb said, speaking for all of them. "You've built something here, Kate. Something the Vectar never expected to face when they left you for dead." Kate nodded, looking around at the determined faces of her people. The Resistance was no longer just about survival. It had become hope for an entire world. Kate stood on a ridge overlooking the labor camp as darkness fell. Floodlights illuminated the compound where nearly 120 colonists worked under Vectar supervision. The alien guards patrolled in predictable patterns, their confidence evident in their relaxed posture. "They still don't see us as a real threat," Kate whispered to Ben, who lay beside her with binoculars. "That ends tonight." The Resistance had spent 2 weeks planning this operation. Every team member knew their role. Zoe had hacked into the camp's power grid and could trigger a blackout on Kate's signal. 3 teams of fighters were positioned around the perimeter, ready to create distractions at different entry points. "Signal the others," Kate ordered. "We move in 5 minutes." Ben flashed a light 3 times toward the distant hills. Answering flashes confirmed the teams were ready. Kate checked her makeshift weapon one last time. It was a modified Vectar energy pistol, adapted for human hands by their engineering team. She still marveled at how quickly humans had learned to use alien technology against its creators. "Now," Kate said into her comm unit. The camp plunged into darkness as Zoe cut the power. Confusion erupted among the guards as emergency lights sputtered on, casting eerie blue shadows across the compound. Kate and her team moved swiftly down the hill using the chaos as cover. At the eastern fence, another Resistance team detonated small explosives, drawing the guards' attention away from the main gate. Kate reached the security station first, neutralizing 2 guards with precise shots to their breathing apparatus. Ben disabled the lock system, and the gates swung open. "Move quickly and stay quiet," Kate told the startled prisoners as they rushed toward freedom. "Follow the guides at the perimeter. They'll lead you to safety." The operation proceeded smoothly until a Vectar patrol ship appeared overhead, its searchlight sweeping the ground. Kate signaled her team to take cover as the light passed over them. "We've been compromised," Zoe's voice crackled over the comm. "More guards incoming from the west." Kate made a split-second decision. "Ben, get these people out. I'll create a diversion." Before he could protest, Kate ran toward the administration building, firing her weapon at the patrol ship. The ship's searchlight immediately focused on her. "This way," she shouted, drawing the Vectar forces away from the escaping prisoners. Kate led the pursuing guards on a chase through the compound, using her knowledge of the layout to stay just ahead of them. When she reached the far side, she activated the explosive charges they had placed earlier as a contingency. The explosion rocked the camp's perimeter fence, creating enough confusion for Kate to slip away into the darkness. By the time she reached the rendezvous point 2 miles away, most of the freed prisoners had already been guided to safety. 108 people freed, Zoe reported as Kate arrived at their temporary base. "We lost no one." The next morning, a Vectar commander arrived at the colony in a massive transport ship. Kate watched from a hidden observation post as the alien inspected the damaged camp. "The commander's name is Krivax," Zoe translated from intercepted communications. "He's been sent specifically to deal with the human problem." That evening, Kate addressed the enlarged resistance. With the newly freed colonists, their numbers had swelled to over 150. "The Vectar now know we're organized," she told them. "They'll be hunting us more actively, but we've proven what we can accomplish together." As the meeting ended, Zoe pulled Kate aside with new information. "I intercepted a partial transmission from another colony on Proxima B. They're fighting back too, Kate. We're not alone." For the first time since being buried in the rubble, Kate felt a surge of real hope. The resistance was growing beyond New Horizon. Later that night, Kate stood at the entrance to their cave system, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, other humans were fighting the same battle. They had all been left for dead by the Vectar, who had severely underestimated humanity's will to survive. The aliens had made a critical error, Kate thought. They had given humans something to unite against. Kate woke to the sound of alarms echoing through the mining tunnels. She grabbed her weapon and was on her feet before her mind fully cleared the fog of sleep. "Report," she demanded into her comm unit as she rushed toward the command center. "Vectar forces approaching from the south entrance," Ben's voice replied, tight with tension. At least 20 soldiers with scanning equipment. Kate's blood ran cold. The Vectar had never come this close to their base before. Someone must have led them here. She reached the command center where Zoe was frantically coordinating evacuation procedures. The large monitor showed heat signatures of Vectar troops moving steadily through the outer tunnels. "How did they find us?" Kate asked. Dr. Webb pointed to a man sitting in the corner, his face bruised and his hands bound. "Meet Greg Parker. Security caught him trying to leave with a transmitter tuned to Vectar frequencies." Kate approached the man, who refused to meet her eyes. "Why?" she asked simply. "My wife is sick," Greg whispered. "They promised medicine and better rations if I gave them information. I didn't tell them everything, just enough to point them in this direction." Kate wanted to be angry, but she understood desperation. "Zoe, initiate evacuation plan Delta. Ben, prepare the defense teams to buy us time." The resistance had prepared for this possibility. Every member knew which escape route to take and where the backup rendezvous points were located. Within minutes, people were moving through the deeper tunnels toward the emergency exits. Kate led a small team to hold off the Vectar advance. They set traps in the narrower passages, tripwires connected to explosives, false walls hiding resistance fighters, and floodgates that could seal off entire sections. The first group of Vectar soldiers triggered an explosive trap, temporarily halting their advance. Kate used the opportunity to retreat to the next defensive position. 60% of our people have cleared the tunnels," Zoe reported over the comm. "But the Vectar have discovered the northern exit. They're sending forces there now." Kate made another quick decision. "Ben, take your team and secure that exit. I'll handle things here." For 2 hours, Kate's team fought a strategic retreat through the tunnels, delaying the Vectar advance while their people escaped. Every minute gained meant more survivors reaching safety. A massive explosion rocked the tunnel system as the Vectar detonated charges of their own, collapsing a major junction. Kate was thrown against the wall, her comm unit damaged in the impact. Isolated from her team, Kate navigated by memory through increasingly unstable tunnels. She reached a small monitoring station where she could access the security system. Most of the cameras showed empty tunnels, a good sign that the evacuation had largely succeeded. Then she saw it. Dr. Webb and 5 others cornered by Vectar soldiers near the medical supply room. They were surrendering, hands raised as aliens bound their wrists with energy restraints. Kate wanted desperately to help them, but knew she couldn't reach them in time. She watched helplessly as the Vectar led them away, presumably to interrogation. With a heavy heart, Kate continued toward her assigned escape route. The tunnel had partially collapsed, forcing her to squeeze through a narrow opening. Beyond it, she found 3 young resistance members waiting uncertainly. "Lieutenant Morgan," one said with relief. "We didn't know which way to go after the explosion." Kate led them through side passages until they reached the surface nearly a mile from the main base. Night had fallen, providing cover as they moved away from the compromised tunnels. By dawn, Kate had reached the secondary rendezvous point, an abandoned weather station hidden in the hills. Most of their people had made it, but the losses were significant. Not just personnel, but supplies, weapons, and most of their communication equipment. "We've lost Dr. Webb and 5 others," Kate announced to the gathered survivors. "And we've lost our home." The resistance members looked exhausted and defeated. Their safe haven was gone, their future uncertain. "The Vectar think they've won by driving us from our hole," Kate said, her voice growing stronger. "But they've just forced us out into the open where we can strike more effectively. This isn't the end of our resistance, it's just the beginning of their real problems." Kate spent 3 days moving the resistance from one temporary camp to another, staying ahead of Vectar search parties. The weather station offered minimal shelter as they assessed their losses and made new plans. "We've lost 40% of our supplies," Zoe reported, "and most of our communication equipment." Kate nodded grimly. "What about our people?" 132 accounted for, 6 confirmed captured, including Dr. Webb, 11 still missing, possibly in hiding. The resistance had been dealt a serious blow, but Kate refused to accept defeat. While others rested, she studied a Vectar communication device they had salvaged during the evacuation. On the 4th day after losing their base, Kate noticed something strange. The device emitted a high-pitched whine whenever Vectar ships passed overhead. After several such occurrences, she realized the sound varied depending on the ship's function. "Zoe, look at this," Kate called, connecting the device to their remaining analysis equipment. "There's a pattern to these frequencies." Zoe examined the readings. "It's some kind of neural network signal. The Vectar must use it to coordinate their forces." Kate's eyes widened as understanding dawned. "Or to coordinate with each other. What if this is how they communicate between their exoskeletons?" For the next 2 days, Kate and the engineering team experimented with the frequency. They discovered that at certain wavelengths, the Vectar device malfunctioned completely. "It's disrupting their neural network," Kate explained to her leadership team. "If we can broadcast this frequency near Vectar soldiers, it might disable their equipment, maybe even affect their ability to function." Ben looked skeptical. "With what equipment? We barely have enough power to run this camp." "We'll build what we need," Kate insisted, "and I know exactly where to test it first." Intelligence gathered from resistance sympathizers within the colony revealed that Dr. Webb and the other captured members were being held in a detention center near the colony's administrative building. The facility was heavily guarded, but Kate had formed a plan. "We'll build portable disruptors using parts from their own communication devices," she told the rescue team. "If they work, the Vectar guards will be disoriented long enough for us to get our people out." For a week, the resistance worked to build small, handheld devices that could emit the disruptive frequency. They tested them on salvaged Vectar, equipment with promising results. On the night of the rescue mission, Kate led a team of 7 through the colony's drainage system. They emerged 2 blocks from the detention center, moving quickly through shadows to avoid patrols. "Disruptors ready," Kate whispered as they positioned themselves around the building. "Activate on my mark." When all team members were in position, Kate gave the signal. They activated the disruptors simultaneously. The effect was immediate and more dramatic than they had anticipated. Vectar guards stumbled and fell to their knees, their exoskeletons jerking uncontrollably. Some tore at their helmets as if in pain. "Move now," Kate ordered, leading her team into the facility. They found their captured comrades in the central holding area. Dr. Webb looked thin and exhausted, but smiled when he saw Kate. "I knew you'd come," he said as she cut his restraints. They prepared to leave. A Vectar commander appeared at the end of the corridor. Unlike the guards, this one had managed to maintain some control despite the disruptor's effects. "You," the commander hissed in halting English. "The human who should have died under rubble." Kate stepped forward, facing the alien directly. "You made a mistake when you left me for dead. Humans aren't as fragile as you think." The commander lunged toward her, but the neural disruption caused its movements to be slow and uncoordinated. Kate easily sidestepped the attack and placed her disruptor directly against the Vectar's neck gills, their most vulnerable point. "Remember this moment," Kate said as the alien collapsed. "This is when you learned that underestimating humans will be your greatest failure." The team escaped with all 6 prisoners and returned to their hidden camp. Word of their success spread quickly through the resistance network. The knowledge that they had found a weapon effective against the Vectar changed everything. That night, Kate addressed her people. "Today we shifted the balance. The Vectar aren't invincible. They have weaknesses we can exploit, and now we know how to fight them effectively." For the first time since the invasion, the faces looking back at her showed more than just determination. They showed hope. Kate stood on a hill overlooking New Horizon Colony as dawn broke over the distant mountains. In the 3 weeks since discovering the Vectar neural weakness, the resistance had transformed from a desperate band of survivors into an organized fighting force. "All teams report ready," Zoe said, joining Kate at her observation point. "We've distributed neural disruptors to every cell." Kate nodded, her eyes never leaving the colony below. What had once been a thriving human settlement now served as the Vectar command center for this sector of the planet. Today, that would change. "Send the signal," Kate ordered. "Tell everyone to move at exactly 0700 hours. The resistance had grown far beyond Kate's original group. Cells had formed in remote settlements across the region, each preparing for this coordinated attack. Even colonists still working under Vectar control had been secretly equipped with small disruptors to activate when the time came. Dr. Webb approached, carrying a backpack of medical supplies. His time in Vectar captivity had left him thinner, but more determined than ever. "The strike teams are in position," he reported. "Ben's group has already infiltrated the water treatment facility." Kate checked her watch. 10 minutes until the attack began. She looked at the faces of her leadership team, people who had survived the impossible alongside her. "Whatever happens today," she said, "remember that we've already won by surviving this long. The Vectar thought they crushed us when they bombed our colony. They were wrong." At precisely 0700, Kate activated her neural disruptor. Across the valley, dozens of similar devices powered on simultaneously, creating a wave of disruptive frequency that swept through the colony. Through her binoculars, Kate watched Vectar soldiers collapse in confusion as their neural networks and exoskeletons failed. Human workers seized the opportunity, tackling stunned guards and taking their weapons. "First wave successful," Zoe reported, monitoring communications. "Resistance cells have secured the southern quadrant and the power station." Kate led her team down the hill toward the colony's communication array, their primary target. This massive dish was the Vectar's link to their fleet and other occupied colonies. If they could control it, they could spread word of the aliens' weakness. The fighting intensified as they approached the colony perimeter. Despite the neural disruptors, some Vectar had adapted by removing their exoskeletons, fighting with natural weapons, razor-sharp claws and venomous spines. Kate's team fought their way through 3 checkpoints, the resistance fighters moving with a coordination that surprised even their leader. These were no longer frightened colonists but determined soldiers fighting for their home. At the base of the communication array, Kate encountered Commander Krivax. The same Vectar who had been sent to crush the resistance. The alien had removed its armor entirely, its green skin glistening in the morning light. "You have caused much trouble, human," Krivax hissed. "Your species is more resilient than we calculated." "That's your fundamental error," Kate replied, circling the commander cautiously. "You can't calculate the human spirit." The Vectar lunged, with surprising speed, its claws slashing Kate's arm. She stumbled backward but maintained her grip on her weapon. The neural disruptor wouldn't work on an unarmored Vectar, but the modified energy pistol in her other hand would. Kate fired twice. The first shot missed, but the second struck the commander in its exposed neck gills. Krivax fell, green fluid seeping from the wound. "Your people will respond with greater force," the dying commander gurgled. Kate knelt beside the alien. "And they'll fail just like you did. We'll share what we've learned with every human colony. Your invasion is over." With the commander defeated, Kate's team secured the communication array. Zoe immediately began reconfiguring the system to broadcast on Earth frequencies. By midday, the colony was under human control. The surviving Vectar had retreated to their ships, abandoning the settlement they had thought securely conquered. Kate stood in the colony's central plaza, now filled with celebrating humans. Dr. Webb was treating the wounded while Ben organized teams to secure the perimeter against potential counterattacks. "We're receiving responses," Zoe called excitedly from the communication center. "Multiple human colonies report similar successes using our neural disruption technique. And Kate, there's a signal from Earth. They've been fighting back too. They're sending ships." Kate closed her eyes briefly, allowing herself to feel the full weight of their victory. When the Vectar had left her for dead under that rubble weeks ago, they couldn't have imagined they were creating the architect of their defeat. As night fell over the liberated colony, Kate looked up at the stars where Vectar ships were retreating from Earth's orbit. Humanity had faced extinction and emerged stronger, and it had all begun with one woman, buried alive, who refused to die.